And I'm Mary Amy. And today I have before us, I'm excited, Sean Logan. And I'm going to try to say this word, anarcho capitalist and freedom enthusiast. Welcome. How are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm doing good, just going down rabbit holes, studying, watching all these crazy things unfold in the world and doing my best to educate people and wake people up and strategically position myself for potential scenarios that could play out in our economy, in our banking systems. There's a bunch of crazy stuff happening in the Middle East. Like, is that going to come to my country? I don't know. I'm just preparing for anything.
Yeah, like an apocalyptic moment, or right, the last days, 10 days of darkness. I've mentioned these things. I don't know, Sean, if you ever have heard about these 10 days of darkness. I know we already had the emergency broadcast system, the emergency alert system go up. What do you think that's an indication of?
Well, I think these are indications that we're getting to a point where something big is about to happen. We're reaching a tipping point or some kind of climax of this global conflict. And what you asked me before, like, that's what I'm preparing for. I'm trying to study and figure out, okay, what are the potential scenarios that could play out once this tipping point or once this big event happens? Is it going to be a sudden overnight crash of all the economies and all the markets and things go offline? Or is this going to be a slow, gradual transition into some new kind of system? Is there going to be a war? Is it going to be peaceful? I don't know. Is there going to be an alien invasion? I don't know. You already see the mainstream media is prepping people for some kind of alien invasion.
Project Bluebeam? Well,
Yeah.
we know already. I mean, I've mentioned how there's been extraterrestrial species in the Dumb's tunnels for I don't know how long, and they were here, and they have, whether they are the draconian reptilians or the Greys. And I've spoken about how I've actually had um, communications with gray aliens, and I've had different alien species, extraterrestrials, contact me, lucid dreams. Have you had any of that kind of experience, Sean?
Yes, I
You
have.
have?
But
Really?
yes, but it wasn't until I began experimenting with the different ways of opening my pineal gland. Then I started having certain experiences. I started having memories come back to me from different incarnations. And when you start messing with your pineal gland, you start tapping into different realms, different dimensions, and accessing data and even potentially other beings that you would not have had access to. It's very, very crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so what are some species that you have? So we are basically contactees. They say that there's a physical contactee, or there is I guess a consciousness or some kind of higher consciousness contactee. So would you say, are you someone that actually saw a UFO or an extraterrestrial, live in this matrix that we live in, this three-dimensional world, or was it through in your mind, in your system? How were you contacted?
So when I took a trip down to Costa Rica and I drank ayahuasca.
Hmm.
This is a plant medicine with dimethyltryptamine that opens your pineal gland. So I did this 4 nights in a row. And one of the nights when I was doing this, when I closed my eyes, I could see all kinds of things around me through my third eye. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. But a being hovered over my body, which kind of freaked me out at first, but then it almost changed the vibration of my body to make me feel like I was high on MDMA. So it was all of a sudden, it was freaky, but then it was very calming and relaxing. And that being did that because it saw that I was freaked out and it didn't want me to be freaked out. And it started running, like it put something in my mouth, like I could see it. And it was doing diagnostics on my body, like checking out what's going on with you. Do you have any energetic imbalances? And it started showing me things, visions of different things throughout my life that I had experienced. And it was showing me things from different perspectives so that I could learn from all the experiences and relive them and view them from a third party perspective.
Was this pleasant, or was this disturbing for you to have this experience?
You know, it was a mix of both. So my ayahuasca experience, there was certain parts of it that were kind of disturbing, and also the physical, the physical uncomfort of it. But at the same time, there was one point in my experience where I felt like my brain turned into a supercomputer, because I started processing data at an incredible speed. Like my life started flashing before my eyes in all these visions, and each flash was like a millisecond, but it was just flashing so quickly, and I felt and relived all these emotions from my entire life, and it was an incredible experience. I had never experienced my brain being able to process that much data in such a short period of time. And it was like, it took all these events, all these emotions, all these experiences, flashed them before my eyes. My brain processed it, comprehended it, structured it, put it all out in front of me, and showed me, hey, like, this was the path you were on. This is where you could have improved. If you want to live to your fullest potential and serve your highest purpose, this is where you need to make some adjustments, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, okay, remind me, when was this that this happened to you?
Well, this was a couple years ago.
Do you feel like that was the moment that you were awakened, or were you like on your way? Would you call this your awakening?
No, I had an awakening at 11 years old.
Oh, okay. Was it
I
a new
had I
experience?
had I had some kind of data download, this intuition, this instantaneous realization that everything around me was fake. And this happened when my parents sent me to the government indoctrination camps, also known as school. And I remember hearing like when I was really, really young, I would ask my parents, I was like, why do we have to go to school? And they would say, oh, because the government has these schools and they say we all have to go. And it was the strangest thing to me. I was like, what is this government thing that's like telling my parents what to do? And it was always just something that bothered me. And like I was in the indoctrination camp, and it hit me all of a sudden. And I went back to my mom. This was when I was 11 years old. And I was like, this is a brainwashing facility. That was the extent of my
Everything.
vocabulary.
I realize this. You label everything. This is extreme. I'm like tippy toe, and you're like,
But yeah, so now I call them indoctrination camps, but my vocabulary when I was 11 years old was.
country, and you're here in the United States, right? Where, what country? What state are you from?
This was in Southern California at the time.
Southern California. Are you still in Southern California?
Not at the moment. I don't like California anymore because it's kind of like a communist country down there now.
Okay. All right. All right. So I still don't know what kind of did you tell us do you know what kind of species this extraterrestrial that you had this experience with?
You know, I don't recall exactly what kind it was. All I know is I felt its presence. I saw it with my third eye, and it was doing something to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't like label it or yeah, I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Yeah, I know, because it definitely is when you have these experiences. I do these live videos, and at the very end, I do psychic phenomenon, and I help give steps for telepathy and opening up the different chakras, and I talk about that and activating, how to activate your DNA blueprint. And it seems to me that you've pretty much done a lot of your own activation, and it's like you're guided somehow from maybe a higher power, higher, a source, God source. I don't know what your belief system is. But do you have like a sense that you have a mission, or you're being guided to do something? It sounds like internally, to me, what I'm realizing about you, or I'm sensing, is that you're someone that is so strong. Like you have such a strong internal sense that it's like you speak about freedom, and I believe you are living your like a very strong sense of freedom yourself. Do you feel like you're a very empowered person?
I feel like the reason I've chosen this career path is because I do this on other planets. And this was a memory that came back to me when I began learning how to open my pineal gland and experimenting with different ways. And I learned stuff from shamans also. And the shamans would say, always set your intention. And one of my intentions was I wanted to know what I was doing in other incarnations. And those memories, I had some of the memories come back to me. And I had a vision, a memory of me basically doing what I'm doing here on this planet on another planet. And the control system that's been implemented on this planet with the Federal Reserve and the central banking monopolies and, these corporations that basically take control of every aspect of our life, even down to the language that we speak.
Right.
This is not the only planet they do this on. This
Right.
is a cookie cutter, duplicatable enslavement system that can be installed on any planet where there is a population of more primitive humans.
To me, you know what you're reminding me of when I'm hearing you speak, Sean? You're reminding me of someone that's either been put in some kind of brainwashing system like MK Ultra, or do you think in a past life or a past incarnation you were stuck in some kind of where they were messing with you? More so
I've
than a normal person.
I've never had any visions or memories come back to me about being in something like that.
Okay.
But the next time I practice some of the pineal gland methods, I would like to set some more intentions to get some more memories back of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you know why you're so wise to everything. You said when you were 11 years old to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was before we got on this on video, but I'm going to say that you're a very brave individual because you say your truth and you're not scared to, and you keep going. And I know that there's like a level of being open and expressing your truth, and then there's a whole nother level of actually trying to say, like, look over here, everybody look, so it's okay for you. Like, that's what it seems to me. It's like you have such a big heart. You're coming from a place of you want everyone else to be okay so that they're not entertaining all this fake stuff. Right. You mentioned the financial system, and I've been speaking about this quantum financial system and quantum computing and these cards, and I've heard this from some of these podcasts. I don't know how much of this is real or not. Do you know anything about that, the quantum financial system?
Yes, I've been watching different podcasts and different truthers
Yeah.
and different just content creators about it.
Yeah.
What I believe is that the whole idea behind this quantum financial system comes from quantum computing, which is basically just really, really fast advanced computers. And the computer technology that we use is doubling in processing power and efficiency about every 18 months. If you ever look up what's called Moore's law, it's this law that, and they've been tracing this back since like the 50s, that every 18 months, the processing power and the efficiency of computer processing doubles. So the quantum financial system, in my opinion, it's just a fancy word used to describe faster monetary systems, faster payment networks than we have right now. It's also describing a lot of the blockchain technology, cryptocurrency technology, which is designed to move money around the world at the speed of light and eliminate a lot of the middlemen that exists within our current financial ecosystem, and also eliminate a lot of the liquidity problems that exist within our current financial systems.
I was under the belief that the maybe I'm wrong, quantum financial system will show up all of your transactions on a ledger, and it's public and it can't be hidden like the way our banking is right now. It's very corrupt, and we don't know what's going on. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, according to a lot of the other content creators that have been talking about the quantum financial system, that's how they describe it. They describe it as this fully transparent public ledger where everything is tracked and monitored. I've even heard stuff, rumors that it's gonna scan your body and tap into your frequency and scan,
check your heart and see if you have good intention, and then
yes,
if you get to do a humanitarian project.
Yes,
and you get
I've heard those
dollars.
rumors.
Yeah.
I don't believe that stuff yet. I'll believe it when I see it kind of person. But that's like a very optimistic outlook. But on the flip side, a fully transparent ledger that records all your transactions and spies on you, well, that also is what the central bank digital currency mark of the beast system is. So could it potentially be that the quantum financial system and all of this rainbows and butterflies stuff about it, oh, it's only for good? Is this a psyop to keep the people passive and complacent, waiting for it, instead of taking unified action against their conquerors, which are going to try to enslave them through a financial system?
Right.
I don't know. This is where we don't know. This is where we get into the psychological games that these world controllers play, is because they have to lead people in a certain direction. And if they just come out and say, oh yeah, okay, we're going to track and monitor you and give you a digital ID and all this stuff, well, people aren't going to, they're not going to comply. But if they can twist it a little bit and tell people what they want to hear and make them believe in it, that's what's called a hopium psyop, or it's also called a stand down psyop. And the reason that a government or an enslaver would create a stand down psyop is to take away people's will to fight, because they think this quantum financial system is going to save them from all their money problems, or they think Nassara Jassara is going to save them from their money problems.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Nassara Jassara, what, the releasing of the 6,000 or 3,000 patents about free energy, and we already have free energy, but we are not privy to it because it's hidden. Where is it hidden? Below the Earth's surface? I don't know if it's Antarctica and are they going to have the demise of the IRS? And we're no longer have to pay taxes. I mean, it's all like, we're kind of there. Everything's a lot of up in the air right now. And I know that I'm somebody that I believe, like I say, light on the horizon, good things are coming beyond your view. A difficult situation will improve. It's like waking up and looking at a sunrise. And I speak about angels, and I speak about, divine intervention. I don't believe there's going to be this massive war. I don't know how much. I'm the same as you. I have to see it with my own eyes out here. A lot of it's speculation. Do you have like an optimistic perspective, Sean, that things are going to shift? Because we are possibly going to have the grand solar flash.
I do have an optimistic perspective, assuming that we can raise the level of human consciousness and wake enough people up. Because right now, people are awakening at an exponentially growing rate, mainly because of the ability to share information at the speed of light with, well, all the social media platforms. Even though they're heavily censored, we're still reaching an enormous amount of people and waking an enormous amount of people up. So as long as we can continue waking people up and snapping them out of their mainstream media induced psychosis, then I do believe that, we can have an optimistic view. At the same time, there's a lot of advancements in technology coming out that could potentially be used to liberate humanity. And when I say coming out, I don't mean like, oh, they're just now getting invented, because I believe this stuff has been around for hundreds of thousands of years, dating all the way back to the ancient Sumerian gods. But it's just now getting to a point to where it's too difficult for the world controllers to keep this technology suppressed, because humanity keeps getting smarter and getting access to more information and raising their consciousness. And now it's kind of just this thing where everyone who even does a little bit of research into this, or just go watch some of Stephen Greer's documentaries, it's like, okay, yes, this technology exists. Go read the ancient Sumerian translations of the ancient Sumerian tablets written in cuneiform. Go read the Book of Mormon, read the Bible, read all the ancient religious text, and you're going to see references to all of this technology. So I think it's been around for a long time. It's just been suppressed and hidden from humanity because it's too disruptive for the world controllers to allow us to have. When this technology gets released, like the 0-point energy technology, it will completely collapse the infrastructure, and it makes everything obsolete that's built into our infrastructure. Like pumping gas becomes obsolete, gas stations become obsolete, solar panels become obsolete, burning coal becomes obsolete, wind energy becomes obsolete. All this stuff that they have invested billions and billions of dollars to establish in our infrastructure, it just goes out the window once you can have a 0 point energy device that fits in your hands that's about this big, the size of a microwave, that can power the entire neighborhood.
Right. Or an anti-gravity vehicle that
Yes.
you can drive around in. I have, early on you mentioned having these, I guess, memories. And I have, in the last, I guess, 10 years, had memories. And I don't think, it's almost funny, they're there, but it's not like until you acknowledge them. And so I've had memories similar to some of the statements you just made in relation to like travel, in relation to our superpowers, in relation to moving to another place, like, I guess, teleportation, um, other planets, communications. And so I don't think that this is as far off as we realize. It seems like you're saying the disclosure is happening kind of at a snail's pace because people aren't really waking up. And what I've realized, to me, and maybe, I don't know, you tell me what you think, for a long time, I've been doing these videos for a year. I kept saying, hello, wake up to everyone, like, wake up. And now I just say, okay, here we go. Here's this group over here who's awakened. And then here's this group who's like focused on, the same, oh, I'm going to the restaurant and I'm doing this and I'm taking this medication or I'm doing that because I'm following the masses. I'm like in the long line at Disneyland and I'm just going to follow them to their destiny because mine isn't important. And then there's us who were like, we have our own mission here. So what do you think? Is there this great divide now? And do you see like, we're the first timeline arrivals to the fifth dimension, right?
Yeah, I do still see that there's a divide, and I believe the division is engineered by the world controllers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the strategies that they have used, and this dates all the way back to, there's references to this in the Bible, but it's called divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they can keep the people divided, then they will not take part in unified action against their conquerors. So they have to keep the people divided in terms of like what they believe, in terms of religion, political view, race, skin color, income class, everything they can possibly just put out there on the mainstream media. As long as people are arguing about it, then they are divided. So it doesn't even have to be real. They could just put a bunch of fake stuff out there on the media. And as long as they keep people bickering amongst each other, then the people remain divided.
Yeah, I always say that paid programming, and it's the advertisers, and it's like television was invented for, for the family to get together, and it was for entertainment. And that's what you really should take all the mainstream media as. It's just entertainment, and they're paid. And so why take it seriously? Yeah, I agree with you. It's about divide. Right now, here we are, we're in the midst of, I guess, this, I don't want to kind of go too deeply into this, but what's going on, this terrorism and the war. We had one war and now we're focused on this war, and we're apparently 33 trillion in debt, but somehow, and there's children that don't have food, somehow we're sending millions of dollars or billions of dollars to other countries. How do you feel about that?
Well, my point of view on this is right now the world is still, under this money monopoly, and they're stealing billions and billions of dollars from the American people, and they're financing both sides of every war. And when I say they, I'm talking about the world controllers, the deep state, the cabal, whatever you want to call them. But they've been doing this for a long time. We now live in a time where humanity lives war to war, crisis to crisis, economic collapse to economic collapse. And all of these events are orchestrated by one centralized entity, typically referred to as the Illuminati, the deep state, the cabal, or whatever you want to call them.
Masons.
Yeah.
Bloodlines. The K Mafia.
Yeah, the bloodlines, then their descendants.
The Bilderberg Group.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, the Rothschilds. The Rockefellers, all those.
The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers.
Yep. But
On the same page.
countries don't win wars. The banks are always the winner of the war, because what happens is they blow up the infrastructures of these countries and then they rebuild them with more central banks so that they can financially enslave people. So it doesn't matter which side gets, which side has the upper hand in the war. The bankers always win. And then also war creates orphans and central bankers. And what I'm going to get censored if I say this, but it's
Don't say it.
Human. And then, when you're stuck in traffic, if you're going to work, you know what I'm talking about. I can't say it because they will censor me,
Don't
but
say it.
were
Okay,
they?
talking about human trafficking?
Yes.
Oh, yes, so I said human, no, there's definitely, I spoke about Tataria. Did you ever learn about Tataria?
I have watched some videos about that. Yeah, about the technology.
It was across, Tataria was a civilization that spanned all the way from Russia to the United States. And if you look around at some of these beautiful buildings, somehow they're driving around in a horse-drawn carriage, but they built these magnificent, beautiful buildings. How did they do that? Well, there was this civilization called Tataria that was exterminated by parasites. And they say it was a mud flood, but we don't know what really happened. It's similar to like what maybe they're trying to do right now, depopulate and do away with our civilization and rewrite the history books. And exactly what you just said. They took away all the adults and put the orphans on trains. And then there was 1 million orphans. Where did the 1 million orphans come from? Where's the parents? Sound familiar to a most recent event across, the country and now nobody's talking about it anymore? It was burned down. It was forest fires.
Yeah. These are like these engineered crisis, and they're all engineered. They're all manufactured. It's a rinse and repeat strategy that they use to keep the world under their control and rewrite history. History is his story. That's why it's spelled that way, and it sounds like his story, because who writes the story? Whoever wins the war.
Yeah. So right now, if we could dig ourselves out, what would you say? What kind of recommendation would you give to the masses? If you could, everybody could listen to you, and with like careful wording. What would you give a recommendation? You started by speaking about the pineal gland. How can people awaken themselves so that they have another perspective? Or is it more related to something out here in the physical reality? What do you think?
Well, I think first it does start from within. You got to have the realization and the awakening from within to begin taking action on reclaiming your freedom and sovereignty, because it's a lifestyle change and there's multiple steps involved, and there's different levels of freedom that you can achieve from this control matrix. But something that will instantaneously fix this problem, fix this enslavement that we're in, is stop depositing money into a central bank. Stop paying taxes, stop paying your mortgages, stop using the central banks. The central banking system is a control system that has to constantly be fed. And the more people deposit money into the bank, the more they feed it. The more people transact in United States dollars and bank printed monies, the more they feed that system. So if everyone just says, no, we're not going to use this anymore, and they start using alternative monetary systems, then that money monopoly crumbles very, very quickly.
Yeah, I always think if everyone just would stop doing everything and say, nope, not going to do that. Not going to drive that car. I'm not going to do this job. I'm not going to pay these. If everyone just stopped instead of like robot.
Yes.
I do want to say back to when you were speaking about the word that you weren't going to say, the human trafficking. I'm not making light of that at all. That is the most horrific, terrible, the child trafficking that's been going on and all of these evil crimes against humanity. To me, that it breaks my heart. And that to me is, if the word can get out to stop that, that's probably the most important thing, is to get that word out. Now, I don't know how that's going to go. It seems like everyone involved in any position of leadership is corrupt. I don't know if that's going to change. Do you believe in this whole concept of the black hats and the white hats?
I do believe in good people existing. I do believe that there is good people in the military. I do believe that there is good people that hold positions in the government that don't like what's happening. But I do believe also at the same time that the whole idea of white hats and black hats has been bunched up into a whole bunch of other hopium psyops that are, for the most part, being very exaggerated right now, to a point to where people just kind of sit around and think, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. The white hats are going to save us, or Trump's going to save us, or Jesus is going to save us, or this is going to save. It's always some third party intermediary that is going to come and save everyone. But I believe that people are responsible for saving themselves, and we all have to take part in unified action to reclaim our freedom and sovereignty and fight against this oppressor. You can't just sit around and wait for some third party intermediary. That's what I believe is the psyop. And again, like, I believe that there's always truth to be pulled out of these psyops, because they can't make it all a blatant lie, or else it would be easy to tell. They have to mix it in with some truth, and then they spin it and kind of blow it out of proportion, and then create these savior messiah figures, whether it be Donald Trump getting elected again, or Nisara Jasara, or the Solar Flash, or the White Hats. I think that's where you got to be careful, because this is how the governments and the controllers create people that are complacent and passive, that don't stand up and fight. And I'll give you another example of this. The stand down psyops are nothing new. There was one during the Bolshevik Revolution called Operation Trust, and it was a psyop where the oppressor convinced the rebellion that there was a secret military operation of good guys that were going to fight the bad guys, kind of like what's happening now with the whole QAnon thing.
It's so fascinating, because I don't understand what the motivation is for all of this, for everything. Because, as humans, here we are, and it's like we're born, and all of these, it seems like there's many individuals who are focused on doing all the wrong things. And it's like endless, whether it's like all the things you've mentioned tonight, the control, the enslavement, money, the lifestyle, everything. I don't understand why. What is their like mission? What is their purpose? They do just to do this forever?
In my opinion, it's like someone who owns a farm and they have livestock that they are profiting from. And I believe that humans are that livestock on this planet. And we're being farmed by more advanced people that have a lot of technology and a lot of money and power and knowledge. And we're like their commodities. They make money off of us. They can trade us. When you get into the interplanetary trade, where you're dealing with more highly advanced beings, because the humans on this planet are still very primitive, but highly advanced beings, they seed their own planets. They genetically engineer their own species. They genetically engineer their own plant life. They genetically engineer their own animal life, and they launch their own civilizations on different planets. They buy planets, they sell planets, they inherit planets from their family. And when you are a highly advanced being and you control a planet, and you have other friends that are just as highly advanced as you are, and they control their planets, and you're all into creating your own species and basically playing God, I mean, I would call up my bro at the planet next door and be like, hey, I see you got some humanoids down on that planet, and I think they have some really great genetic features that I would like to splice in my next genetic experiment. I'll trade you some of my commodities and resources from my planet for some of that genetic material. What do you say?
What do you think about, is this an AI that's monitoring everything, or is it like it's just a different species of being?
I think it could potentially be both, and in some cases one or the other. Because I mean, think about how many different, I mean, humans farm all kinds of different stuff. There's all kinds of different farms that humans that humans manage. And I think as computer technology advances, yes, AI can be used to help keep track of everything. I mean, it already is. You know, when you go to the grocery store, everything, all the plants that you buy there, all the produce, everything's got barcodes on it. And you can even go through a self-checkout where it scans it, weighs it, identifies exactly what it is. It's like that's already in existence right now. That's AI technology used at that self-checkout at the grocery store.
Wow.
But I believe that's happening, but on a much bigger level, a much higher level. And I believe that humans are seen as livestock to highly advanced beings.
Do you believe in some kind of very dark entity like Satan or Lucifer or anything like that?
I don't necessarily believe in it in the context of religious dogmas and superstitions, but I do believe that there are beings that have a lot of money and power and technology, and they use it for their own greed, and they use it without any regard to other people's feelings and other people's well-being.
It's interesting. I just had a thought when you were speaking about basically human harvesting or human, I guess, breeding,
Farming.
farming. It's what humans do with animals. So it's
Yeah.
just being done to us, but we're not. We're so like don't realize it.
Yes. Yeah, cloning and hybridizing is nothing new. This dates all the way back to the ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets and the Genesis of the Old Testament Bible. So Genesis, the reason that word sounds and is spelled the way it is, like the word genes is in the word Genesis. It's the genes of Isis, who was one of the ancient Sumerian gods, the genetics of Isis, the genealogy of Isis, the generations of Isis. And that book, Genesis, is a story of highly advanced beings doing genetic experiments. And that's how the humans, our version of it, the human Homo sapien, came into existence. As we were a genetic experiment, according to these ancient Sumerian tablets that have been censored and kind of hidden from the King James Bible. The Genesis in the King James Bible is very vague. There's a lot of missing pieces to that story. But in the 1800s, an archaeologist named George Smith was sent on an expedition to the Middle East, and he was pulling these cuneiform tablets up out of the sand and retranslating them. And they found all the missing puzzle pieces to the Genesis story of the King James Bible. There's another translator that I read some of his books. His name is Mauro Biglino, and he worked for a publishing company that was endorsed by the Vatican, but they began censoring him for basically exposing this stuff that I teach. But he has a book, and in his translations, he goes so in depth on the Genesis. It's incredible how much detail he goes into with his translations. I mean, he talks about when these Sumerian gods came here and started doing the genetic experiments, how they didn't get it right the first time. Some of the first ones they tried to make, the hands didn't function properly. They couldn't hold in their urine. Their eyes were messed up. They had to try multiple times before they finally got it right. And the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis, that was a laboratory where they were doing the experiments. And it was like a prison laboratory where they would keep their livestock, their genetic experiments, they would keep them in there. And the whole story about Adam and Eve, getting kicked out of the garden, that's because they became awake and aware of what was happening. They became awake and aware that they were a genetic experiment and they were being enslaved, and God kicked them out because he didn't want to turn them to tell all the other slaves what was really happening.
Cloning.
Yes, cloning. Yep.
I did some videos about cloning, and I went down the rabbit hole, and because I had been hearing some of these videos on Instagram, they were speaking about these cloning centers in Canada, and then there was some of these ex-celebrities were talking about it, and more recently there's been a couple of glitches, it seems like, in some of these celebrities' behavior, and I don't know if that's intentional or if that's real. Do you have any knowledge of that?
I have seen some of those videos that you're talking about the glitches, like the one with Katy Perry and one of her eyes is stuck shut and she's like tapping on her head and then it opens.
Yeah.
I do believe that cloning has been around for a very, very long time. and it's nothing new. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if those glitches in the celebrities are real. I also wouldn't be surprised if they're being cloned in ways that, you know, might not be genetically human the way that we are. So who knows what they're doing in those cloning centers that they have hidden, you know, underground or up in space or wherever they have them. But from everything that I've researched and studied, cloning, genetic engineering, hybridizing different species, this has been going on this planet for like hundreds of thousands of years. It's nothing new.
Mhm. Okay, so is there anything you would like to share with our audience that you haven't mentioned already before we go tonight?
Yes. So I know a lot of the stuff I talked about might seem kind of horrible, and yes, it is. There's been a lot of very horrible things that have happened on this planet, and through this system of enslavement. But if you really dive deep into some of these things that I talk about the ancient Sumerians and the cuneiform tablets that they find, what you'll discover is that when they were doing these genetic experiments, the master geneticist behind us, he made us in the image of the gods. It says that in the book of Genesis, and that's another reference to the DNA of the gods. So we have very highly advanced DNA in us, and he actually made us so advanced that we all have the potential to become gods and raise our consciousness and even develop superpowers to a certain extent through knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Without knowledge and wisdom, the average human is nothing more than an insect. But when you become wise and open your pineal gland and start accumulating knowledge, you will be like a god. Anything is possible. In fact, there were times where the human race came together as one and accomplished great things. And this is also referring back to the Genesis, the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel was a great accomplishment of the humans. What exactly it was is debatable. It could have been a spaceport. It could have been a communications device. But this angered the gods. When I say the gods, I'm not talking about real gods. These are like false gods, enslaver gods. They destroyed the tower and divided up the languages amongst the people. This is why we all speak different languages. Because when the humans unify together as one, we can accomplish anything. Each and every single one of you are a god if you want to be one. What I believe the real God is, the only real true entity that is deserving of the title of God, is the conscious energy that is flowing through your body and causing your heart to beat without you thinking about it. It's the conscious, intelligent vibration that causes a pine cone to grow with a perfect Fibonacci spiral, the golden ratio. God is a frequency and a vibration and a conscious energy that's flowing through all of us and that is connected through all of us. And we are all connected through this God consciousness. And when people realize this, we will overthrow these enslavers and we will live in abundance where there will be no more war, there will be no more famine, there will be no more disease. We will truly evolve into an interplanetary species and unlock technologies that you can't even imagine.
Yes, we will rally towards that. Are you one of the 144,000? Are you a starseed?
I've been called that many times.
Yeah.
Whether I am or not, I mean, whether you want to call me that.
You're definitely an awakened being. And the fact that you are, you've had some kind of, you've been, I don't want to say what you've been, but you've been kind of kept quiet means that you're over the target to me. So, and I'm really appreciative that you joined us here today. And where can everyone find you or information about you?
So on TikTok, I am out of the matrix. My accounts on TikTok get deleted all the time, but I usually just create a new one. So if you search out of the matrix, you should find me. You can also find me on Instagram. My handle is Sean.M.Logan. That's SEAN.MLOGAN. And I also have a YouTube channel called Universal Archaeology. But you can find me on some of my social media platforms if you want to reach out.
Also Awakening, that's how I found you. What is it?
Oh yeah, so I do have another Instagram account called Great Awakening, but it's spelled GR8. And then there's a letter 3 where the E is in awakening. And that's where you can reach out to me.
I'll put it in the details of this video. And I'm really grateful that you joined us here today. And just hold on, okay? Don't hang up. Thanks, everyone. And if you have any questions, reach out to Sean. He's very worldly and has lots of wisdom about a lot of different topics.
Thank you so much.